You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. But even a villain wouldn't drop Vultures too. Kanye West is my most toxic relationship. Lies, controversy, and in recent memory, crippling laziness. But I've stayed tuned because he made Graduation, and 808s and Heartbreak, and The College Dropout. That is at least until after Donda. Kanye since 2022 has been on a warpath to destroy his legacy, with no motivation aside from he can, and as a result has received some of the worst reception of his career, lost billions of dollars, and has disappointed lifelong fans who have been with him through thick and thin in the process. Every now and then a glimmer of hope shines in a half-baked release, but the fact of the matter is we're living in a new era of Kanye West. Not the old Ye or the new, but post-Ye. A reality after Kanye West. Because Kanye West died with his album Donda, metaphorically and literally. And by stepping back and viewing the story of Kanye West as the old Kanye, the new Kanye, and this current era of post-Kanye, you'll see what I see, because the problem now is Ye seemingly has nothing left to say. Today we're gonna break down the problem with Kanye post-Donda, what made the old Kanye and the new Kanye so good, and of course, can Ye be saved? Because the guy who made Runaway can't go out like this.
I don't have no rapper friends, I hang with the Vultures.
It feels crazy that we're still talking about new Kanye West music in 2024. Because after fumbling what was probably the best exit strategy with Donda and the Free Larry Hoover benefit concert, with the immediate mess and failed release of Donda 2, getting his ex-wife back, Kim Kardashian, while simultaneously publicly dating Julia Fox, and then a series of disturbing anti-Semitic rhetoric and White Lives Matter t-shirts to top the year off, I genuinely didn't think it was possible for Kanye to come back in a mainstream sense. Like, how? He got through George Bush, he got through Taylor Swift, he got through Slavery Was a Choice, but I mean, there's no way you make it out of a career after this. And yeah, I couldn't have been more wrong. At least commercially. 20 years to the day of the release of his debut album, The College Dropout, he released a collab album with Ty Dolla Sign and the first of a planned trilogy, Vultures 1. And not only did it go straight to the top of the Billboard charts for 2 weeks, but sported his first #1 single in over 13 years, Carnival, featuring Playboy Cardi and the mainstream comeback of Rich the Kid. Somehow, after all but destroying any goodwill that he gained back with the release of Donda, which came after nearly destroying his legacy during the free thinking era, Kanye was kind of back. He definitely wasn't at the peak of his powers creatively. I mean, hell, he wasn't even reaching the quality of his more divisive years, but he made it out of the other side of the worst controversy of his career with a career still, and the ability to still play arenas around the world. While the album itself was panned by critics, it was able to be the top of a conversation for a few weeks until... This shit never gets old. And in that, we kind of just forgot about Vultures 1 and stopped caring about 2 and 3. Until Kanye tries to insert himself into the beef, to which there was like a collective groan from all sides. The beef wages on, Not Like Us, the song of the summer, and then randomly, without being on really anyone's radar except for the more devout Kanye subreddit users and Twitter accounts, Vultures 2 surprise drops on streaming in August, and it's a complete disaster. Awful mixing, unfinished songs, AI reference tracks. It was appalling to drop something like this. It wasn't like a listening party led us into it, or a social media frenzy. He said, here you go, it's here. And while I appreciate him for not blue-balling us for weeks on end like he usually would, it sounded like he just started working on it like 3 days prior. Vultures 2 has gone through the now normal post-Kanye release rollout, where the album is updated with a series of patches, like it's a Rush AAA video game that have plagued every album of his since The Life of Pablo. But on every subsequent listen, all it's done is just make me sad that this is what Kanye's music has become. The once most important and influential artist of our time is mumbling his way through unmixed YouTube rips of old leaks. And when he isn't mumbling or using AI in lieu of actually recording new verses, he's singing songs like he's fucking Herbert from Family Guy.
The only thing you really need is a husband.
But then Korea happens. Ye and Ty Dolla announced they're doing a Vultures 1 and 2 listening experience in South Korea, which, if you don't know, is just them blasting the songs on speakers in arenas, not performing, just walking and running around, sometimes even masked, for $150 plus. And that's that. And did I go to the one on Long Island? Yeah, I did. I'm a fucking sucker. But this is not the problem with Vinny worrying of. This is the problem with Kanye West. At the shows after the Vulture section, Kanye will start playing old hits for the crowd, not performing them, but just playing them, and everybody starts going crazy because we're in the presence of Kanye West playing Runaway. And that's when the gist of these shows. But in Korea, after the Vulture section, Ye came back with a microphone in hand. And this listening experience turned into a performance of what would honestly be the Kanye West Eras Tour, covering everything from the College Dropout to Donda. And it not only set the crowd on fire, but had the internet collectively finally feeling nostalgic for the beginning, middle, and end of Kanye West. And in that moment, the story of Kanye became more clear. And for a man obsessed with dismantling the past to create a new, it felt like truly the one time where he just wanted to relish in the past himself. And in doing so, you see from the old Ye to the new, album by album, song by song, exactly what's been missing in all of his music post Donda, post Ye.
I miss the old Kanye, straight from the gold Kanye, chop up the soul Kanye, set on his goals Kanye.
The concept of the old Kanye versus the new Kanye has been debated for years, to the point where Kanye himself has even chimed in on the matter. It stems from the idea that at a certain point, Kanye saw a dramatic shift in his art and personality, and moved further away from being the kid with the pink polo and his more accessible top 40 friendly music that took over the second half of the aughts. We start to see this transformation begin in the wake of the passing of his mother Donda West, who he never really mourned, and instead insisted on continuing to tour and create in her honor, resulting at the time in 808s and Heartbreak, and ultimately the VMAs and Dark Fantasy. But in the lore, the old Kanye is the one who exists before Yeezus. But even from the onset, Kanye was always aspiring to be greater than the position he was currently in, and pushing the boundaries of rap and pop music. Like, being credited for revitalizing the career of Jay-Z as a producer wasn't enough. He needed to be a rapper. Them becoming the biggest rapper alive was fine, but Mark Zuckerberg, you should fund all my ambitions. There was really no room for the words idol and Kanye West in the same sentence, because Kanye's purpose was to move forward even if you weren't ready to move with him. I like to look at each album of his as a reflection or a check-in point of this man continuing to figure himself out against new backdrops and evolving sound palettes. The old Kanye was a trailblazing artistic force in rap and pop music who redefined himself at every turn. The College Dropout was a more refreshing change of pace from the more street and gangster rap that dominated the charts at the time. Late Registration saw Ye trading his signature sped-up soul sample style for a more orchestral style production to soundtrack his newfound fame. Graduation was inspired by the anthemic stadium rock that Kanye watched U2 play while he was on tour with them, and put the final nail in the coffin on gangster rap's mainstream dominance. 808s and Heartbreak is arguably the most influential album released this century, with its deeply emotional and personal lyrical content being rapped and sung by a heavily auto-tuned Kanye. It's also his best album, but that's a conversation for a totally different video. And of course, the grand finale to this era, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, a maximalist masterpiece, instantly lauded as one of the greatest musical achievements of all time, and is credited by pretty much everyone for saving Kanye's career after the infamous Taylor Swift incident at the VMAs. It's a feat so impressive and so Kanye that I genuinely don't think you can call anything a dark fantasy ripoff, because replicating it is nearly impossible. The era of the old Ye serves as a run of music that completely redefined the playing field and became the blueprint for the next generation of hip-hop and what it could be. And Kanye knew what he had done was special even back then, and being the artist that he was, he knew he needed to now start fresh. In an interview with Steve McQueen for Interview Magazine, when asked if the success of Dark Fantasy weighed on his mind, he said, "Yeah, so I just had to throw it all in the trash. I had to not follow any of the rules because there was no way to match up to the previous album. Dark Fantasy was the first time you heard that collection of sonic paintings in that way, so I had to completely destroy the landscape and start with a new story. Dark Fantasy was the 5th installment of a collection that included the 4 albums before it. It's kind of like the Luke, I Am Your Father moment. Yeezus, though, was the beginning of me as a new kind of artist." But that's exactly what Yeezus was. The beginning of a new artist, a new Kanye. And with Yeezus and what followed, that mentality was clear in the back of his mind at all times. This era of Kanye was more minimalist in approach, and designed to go even further and further away from the norms of the moment. Yeezus' opening track almost acts as the unofficial thesis statement. And in retrospect, he was right. Because the new Ye was not only a deconstruction of music and how we consume it, but Kanye himself, digging deeper and deeper into his family life, celebrity, struggles with mental health, his relationship to religion and spirituality. And while this era was definitely more divisive and controversial, he was at least driven with the idea of pushing the art forward and at least having something to say. Yeezus was born out of the rage and frustration he had with the boxes, the media, and the music and fashion industries that put him into, and through that was an abrasive and experimental exploration into Kanye West, race, love, and society. The Life of Pablo finds Kanye at a crossroads of 2 lives, one fueled by money, booze, women, and fame, and the other centered around family and faith. Yang could see Kanye confronting his mental health head on. Jesus is King kinda sucks for Kanye's standards, but at least it was about Kanye's rediscovery of faith after a tumultuous few years in the public eye. And Donda was the end, and we'll get to that later. Because by now you should know when I hit you with something like that, I'm about to hit you with a call to action. To make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos about pop culture. We recently crossed 10K subs on the channel, and this means the world to me. 10,000 subscribers since I was a kid seemed like this unattainable goal, and you guys made it happen, so thank you so much for that. But now the road to 20K is in full force and I need your help if you're not subscribed, so definitely hit that subscribe button. That being said, you should also follow me on the socials. I'm at KidXVintage everywhere. And that's that. So yeah, let's get back to the show. There's this legendary story about how Kanye rapped the entirety of Yeezus front to back to Seth Rogen in the back of a limo before it dropped. And I think that's definitely the best way to describe the Kanye listening experience post-Yeezus. A larger-than-life celebrity right in front of your face, telling you exactly how he feels. And in that, creating a raw and intimate experience that a lot of people with a net worth that high lose sight of once they get there. And while I can't relate on the surface to the problems of a then multi-millionaire recording artist / fashion icon, it's his mastery of presentation that made the experience all the more authentic. And why I think minimalism worked so well for this section of his career. The Kanye West experience during both the old and new made one thing abundantly clear. Kanye is a one of one. Like, literally, that's the meaning of his name. There was no one out there like this man. Even in the weird moment between 2018 and 2020, there was still passion there. There was still meaning and layers to the lyrics of the music. And what was coming at the top of a new decade was something he had been building towards for a while. The kind of spectacle he always dreamed of creating. An answer to his last few years of music and the connecting point from now to then. One that was rough around the edges and gestating for some time, but could only be assembled together by the son of its namesake.
Donda, Donda, Donda.
Donda as an album can't be judged as just an album, because Donda is so much more than that. It's of course a celebration of his mother, Donda West, but a celebration of life, and ultimately a celebration of Kanye West's creative genius, showing us exactly what he could do with Apple money, while bridging the old Ye to the new. I mean, it's all there in the music, starting the album with Selena Johnson of All Falls Down, reuniting with his estranged big brother Jay-Z on Jail, and bringing Kid Cudi back into the fold on Moon and Remote Control. A speech being played by his mother at one point as if it's teaching being called out to him, and songs also where he takes accountability and accepts the end of his marriage with Kim Kardashian. Well, at least at the time. And of course he brings it all home with a song by Pure Souls that feels like a Sunday at church, and what something like Jesus is King probably should have sounded like. Into Come to Life, which is the emotional climax of the record, finding Kanye on a spiritual journey towards liberation, and ending with Kanye's metaphorical and at one point literal ascension on No Child Left Behind. You really couldn't ask for a better way to bow out than that. Donda was the kind of art piece that Kanye was working towards his entire career. Like, in some weird way, it was like his thesis presentation for the University of Pop Culture, taking elements from every album prior. Donda is a gospel, trap, soul, industrial, pop, hip-hop album being presented to you in real time across multiple cities, live streams, visual performances, tweets, Instagram posts, interviews, rap beef, versus matchups, leaks, and Discord chats. Then against the backdrop of a deteriorating marriage, failed political campaign, and a rough few years in the public consciousness. I think one of the coolest parts was how he uses Dante Alighieri's long-form narrative poem, The Divine Comedy, as a sample of sorts. Kanye, like Allegri in his work, puts himself at the center of the spiritual journey of the soul, beginning in hell, then purgatory, only to ascend to heaven, shed himself of his past sins, and enter paradise where he's greeted by his love and muse, in this case Kim Kardashian. But I always looked at this as the idea of him meeting his mother again, and Kim being a stand-in for the importance of that undying love that never leaves you. And I think that's what Donda represents. We may leave this earth in a physical sense like Donda West, but her energy will never die. Love never dies. Whether it expands to a significant other, friends, family, your children, the energy will always surround you if you let it guide you. And if you've been lost like Kanye in the wake of her death, bogged down by brash and regrettable decisions, this is the journey to reclaiming yourself and your legacy. From hell to purgatory to heaven. A multi-dimensional artistic expression that uses reality as its orchestra, actors, and audience. Meant to timestamp a moment in time that can never be replicated, no matter how hard he's tried. Hold on to that. It's truly pop art for the digital age. When it was all said and done, this all felt like a messy but beautiful bow on the story of Kanye West, the main character. A beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy, if you will, that can live on forever and ever, where he can leave all that there and take a step back finally. The Donda album did have an epilogue though, with Kanye still having some loops to close, a la the deluxe version of the album, including the highly anticipated and teased tribute to Andre 3000 and Kanye West's mother's Life of the Party, making amends with his then and now again, spoiler, biggest op, Drake, and changing his legal name to Ye, just Ye, effectively leaving the name Kanye West with Donda. And to me, looking back, that feels as if that was Kanye West saying, I said everything I needed to as me. And that's where I wish I could say we lived happily ever after. But, ladies and gentlemen,
Everybody waiting for me to say the wrong thing. Okay, you the king, Burger King.
I think the thing with Donda 2 is it throws away almost all of the message of redemption and finality that came with Donda 1. And also normal shirt sizes. Like, what the hell is this? Donda 1 was about finding beauty in endings, and Donda 2 is an album also about the end, but this time it's screaming in agony for it not to be over. Pretty much nixing any presence of his mother besides a name. He was now trying to make a breakup album, but this time he didn't want to be Kanye West. He wanted to be toxic like Future. And after how maturely he surprisingly handled the dissolution of his relationship with Kim on Donda, this all felt regressive and being made to place blame on Kim for breaking up their family. The album for sure has some moments that if honed in on could have been something real special and worthwhile, but that's just in theory. Half of these are composed of mumbles, plus he seemingly just gave up on it post-release on the stem player. Just like he gave up on the Donda 2 listening experience midway through because he had to pick up a mic and actually project his voice to thousands of people. It felt kind of poetic in a sense. And that mostly sums up Kanye musically post-Donda the best. He may have all the money to do what he wants now, and still can put together this incredible visual for you. But when your heart really isn't in it and you're trying to be someone you're not, it's gonna feel very pointless, empty, and fleeting. And once we get to Vultures 1 and 2 in 2024, after, the insanity that happened after Donda 2, it really becomes clear that Ye now has nothing left to say, and is just riding on the coattails of Kanye West. I don't know what any of this is about anymore. And that's what's made me look at Donda 2 and Vultures as this post-Ye to the old and new Kanye. Because like we talked about earlier, the new Kanye still had something to say, even in his weaker moments. There was still something to get out of it. He was still trying. Like, if you want me to tell you what Vultures 1 and 2 are about, I'm like, I don't know. There's some moments on Vultures 1 where he kind of just laughs about being above cancellation, but the rest of the album really doesn't feel much about anything. And to everyone watching going, well, why can't he just make music for fun now? Why does it always have to be dark fantasy and 808s and heartbreak? My answer to you is, maybe I just don't enjoy my Kanye albums sounding like they can be on 15 other people's albums. And in this amazing quote that Rick Rubin said to him in the leaked Donda doc, you don't want anything sounding like it could be on anyone else's album. If you were to take like 80% of these songs on Vultures, they can totally fit on insert random rapper's name here's album. And Vultures 2 and its series of digital deluxe albums is almost a vulturing in itself, in that it's literally taking what's left of Kanye from the past, like literally from the vault, and trying to garner the last amounts of fan loyalty that he can by releasing beloved and, mind you, completely unfinished, some even downloaded off YouTube leak pages, songs from the days of Kanye past. And they all just lose significance instantly because in some instances they don't make sense lyrically for Kanye in 2024. And that's where we're at, right? Ye in 2024 isn't Kanye in 2021 or 2004. And the reality of it all is we're living in a post-Kanye era of Kanye, where for the first time since Donda 1, there was this collective fever of excitement when he walked away from the Vultures era at the Korea show and just played the hits. It's in that moment that Kanye West reminded Ye that he is Kanye West. And that story, that legacy, was cemented in 2021. And whatever he's doing now is totally off the path of who he once was. Because the Kanye experience, for its constant up and downs, old Ye versus new, was a guide to life, how to persevere, how to love yourself, how to believe in yourself even when no one else does, but also how to acknowledge your own faults and become a greater version of yourself. And when the music is now this,
On it, go with it, I want to go with it, and I go with it.
this isn't what we want, and it sure as hell isn't what we need.
Okay, I popped out, cop the antique.
Kanye is my favorite artist, and his music is not only important to me, but millions of people. And of course I'll always be first online to check out his new music. It's Ye, I can't not. But what used to come with excitement is starting to feel anxiety inducing that it's gonna be unfinished or AI or just some nonsense. The question shouldn't be can he be saved, but does he even want to be? In some weird way, this all feels like a movie franchise that's run out of gas but can print money regardless because come on, it's and if they sprinkle some fan service throughout to make a bunch of people on Reddit happy, being creatively bankrupt doesn't really matter. And that to me is what post-Kanye is to the old and new Kanye. Creatively bankrupt, jumping the shark, and like some bad sequels, not essential. But then again, it's so of course I'll be their opening night. Because it's and I love As the modern pop stars of my youth get older, I think cues should be taken from greats like the Beatles, in that endings, even if they're rocky, have power. And retirement or becoming a legacy act like the Rolling Stones or Billy Joel or Elton John is a beautiful thing and not an admittance of defeat, but an acknowledgement that you have a legacy worth celebrating to begin with. You'd rather leave people wanting more than saying you lost it. I mean, look how well it's worked out for Andre 3000, or even how Jay-Z moves in the wake of 444. They wouldn't drop Vultures 2, and I didn't think Kanye would either. The impact of the old and new Kanye will be felt forever, if Ye allows it. And just like Ye, I have nothing left to say. So if you like this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And if you want to watch another one, check this one out.